Welcome to the 6th Annual AIA Pennsylvania Architectural Excellence Awards broadcast. This celebration of architectural excellence throughout the Commonwealth is made possible by our generous sponsors and partners. Thank you to our preferred partners, Fenner & Essler, provider of insurance and risk management for architects and engineers. Oldcastle APG, North America's leading manufacturer of commercial masonry and hardscapes products. Milber Macris, providing a wide range of legal services tailored to design professionals with offices in Berwyn, Pennsylvania. Offutt Kerman, construction law expert specializing in solving professional practice and business challenges for architects and engineers. Office locations in Harrisburg, Philadelphia, and Plymouth Meeting. Burks, Cromer, Cremonese, Pittsburgh Law Firm, representing architects and other design professionals throughout Western Pennsylvania. Thank you to this year's sponsors: Langen, Concord Engineering, Cumbie Construction, Sheets, EPSA, First Energy, Rockfon, Alliance HB Philadelphia, Beam. The broadcast's original score is courtesy of Christopher Brooks' Kenner Trio, Patrick White on fretless bass, Ed Haggard on hand percussion, and Christopher Brooks on violin. The score is made possible by Acoustic Distinctions. Acoustic Distinctions is an acoustics and AV system specialty consulting firm that works as an integral design partner with owners, architects, engineers, and contractors. Tonight's celebration includes recognition of significant achievements by members, citizen architects, non-members, civic and government leaders, allied professionals, and member firms who contribute to the built environment and the advancement of the profession in the Commonwealth. The AIA Pennsylvania membership at large, nearly 3,000 members strong, is given the opportunity to nominate individuals or firms for these honors. This year's Special Awards Nomination Committee deliberated on the nominees and put forth a final slate of Special Awards recipients to the board for approval. Special Awards Nomination Committee Chair Christine Mondor and Committee on Design Chair Bob Kelly worked with 2021 Chair Frank Grauman to convene 8 committee members from across the state for this year's nomination committee, including Karen Blanchard, Teresa Bucco, Chris Dawson, Patrick Endler, Dominique Hawkins, Vivian Lofness, Parva Marque, Adam Trott. 2022's prestigious AIA Pennsylvania Architectural Excellence Special Awards are brought to you by Langen Engineering. Langen provides an integrated mix of engineering and environmental consulting services in support of land development projects, corporate real estate portfolios, and the energy industry. The 50-year Timeless Architecture Award recognizes a building that has endured the test of time and still resonates with the design community and the public. This year's honoree is the Allegheny County Courthouse and Jail. AIA Pennsylvania extends gratitude to the Special Awards Nomination Committee members Bob Kelly, Frank Grauman, and Christine Mondor for their dedication to bringing the courthouse and jail story to the screen.
Every year, AIA Pennsylvania identifies an extraordinary older building and celebrates it with the 50-year Timeless Building Award. This year's award goes to one of Pennsylvania's oldest and most influential public buildings, one having a 134-year record of continuous service. But history and longevity are not what made this building quintessentially Pittsburgh. It enjoyed that status on day one. Upon opening in 1888, it was the iconic pride of Pittsburgh, then the boisterously booming heart of our nation's technological might. But its influence goes far beyond Pittsburgh, extending to public architecture across North America. Of course, we are talking about Henry Hobson Richardson's Allegheny County Courthouse. This is the second year that the Timeless Building Award goes to a venerable civic icon. Last year, we honored the Philadelphia Museum of Art. We noted how the museum's pivotal position anchored a bold urban planning move, the Champs-Élysées-like Benjamin Franklin Parkway linking it diagonally with Philadelphia's City Hall. Like the Allegheny County Courthouse, Philadelphia City Hall enjoys a long, continuous service. Its 1871 design is older than its Pittsburgh counterpart, but the building is also younger, as it took until 1901 to complete. The story of the Allegheny County Courthouse is deeply intertwined with that of Pittsburgh's Golden Triangle. It was the county's third courthouse, replacing an unremarkable 1836 Greek Revival building, which overlooked downtown from a natural promontory, Grant's Hill. That building had proven vulnerable to the corrosive effects of coal pollution. As its dressed limestone fell victim to filth and soot, elements of the facades and the cornices crumbled off. The coup de grace was the fire of 1882. There would need to be a new Allegheny County Courthouse.
It is worth considering Pennsylvania's two big urban centers as the new courthouse's wider context. In the 1880s, both cities were thriving coal and railroad powerhouses. But when it came to industry, Pittsburgh had the upper hand, nearly monopolizing the indispensable ingredient, steel. By then, Philadelphia was 200 years old and had acquired heavy industry only after playing on the world stage as a center of learning, an international shipping port, and the cradle of the American Revolution. Pittsburgh, in contrast, was a rough-and-tumble upstart whose reason for being was entirely industrial. One can only imagine Pittsburgh's eagerness to catch up with its more cultivated cousin, Philadelphia. That can be seen in its robber baron's penchant for cultural philanthropy. So the sudden need for a new courthouse offered the opportunity for competitive civic one-upsmanship. As a baseline in that contest, it is interesting to compare the obvious physical parallels between the Allegheny County Courthouse and Philadelphia's City Hall. Both occupy full city blocks, necessitating large central courtyards for light and ventilation. Both have massive towers, proclaiming civic supremacy, but the settings are very different. Philadelphia's street grid sprawls across a large flat landscape, with the tall human-made landmark compensating for nature's lack of topography. Pittsburgh, in contrast, has what historian Martin Arendt calls unruly topography. An exception is the Golden Triangle's relatively small floodplain, whose eastern boundary was marked by Grant's Hill. This once prominent landform was gradually lowered to accommodate the expanding street grid. Sited on this altered topography, the courthouse's tower helped match the visual prominence of its hilltop predecessor.
Whether or not fueled by rivalry, the desire for an architectural masterpiece can be seen in the decision to run an invitational design competition. The sponsors took it seriously. 4 out-of-town finalists were each offered a respectable honorarium, $2,500, or around $75,000 in 2021 dollars. Conspicuously, one of them was John Ord, who collaborated with John MacArthur on Philadelphia's City Hall before eventually succeeding him. The selection committee's evident logic would be familiar to any contemporary architect. Experience with a given building counts for a lot. Indeed, 2 other contestants, William Boyington and Elijah Myers, also brought substantial public building experience. Meanwhile, H.H. Richardson was at the table only because another architect had stepped aside in his favor. A surprise move that pivoted American architecture forever. The brilliance of Richardson's design is further highlighted if one thinks again of Philadelphia City Hall. The latter's cornerstone was placed by President Grant, and its design is very much a creature of the Civil War era. With relatively simplistic spatial organization, it exaggerated the eclectic French Second Empire style, encrusting itself with classical orders and carvings. But by the 1880s, American architecture was quickly taking on more sophistication. Steel, such as from Pittsburgh, now formed the hulls of ships, compound steam engines, and screw propellers. These technologies radically reduced the transatlantic crossing time, and American architects flocked to Europe to learn from its examples. The more ambitious of them, H.H. Richardson included, would study at Paris's prestigious École des Beaux-Arts.
LeCole's influence on the Allegheny County Courthouse is subtle but profound, accounting for the building's extraordinary clarity, spatial choreography, and functional efficiency. Being called before justice can be one of life's most traumatic transactions. To this difficult purpose, Richardson brought unprecedented light, transparency, dignity, and humanity. If coal, steam, and steel brought French state-of-the-art design savvy, it also brought the very stuff of which the courthouse is made. The burly texture of its stony walls was hailed as a brilliant response to Pittsburgh's brawny industrial dynamism. Ironically, this consummately Pittsburghian character was achieved by transporting via rail from Massachusetts prefabricated blocks of that state's prized native granite. Although the commissioners chose Richardson's design for its brilliant plan and functionality, architectural history remembers it mostly for initiating a profound late 19th century shift in America's stylistic tastes. For Richardson, Pittsburgh's notorious air quality presented the opportunity to propose a new aesthetic. He set the classical orders aside to make a building whose very massing, texture, and heft would carry the day. He argued that dressed stone and traditional ornamentation would quickly fall prey to the soot and fumes that had so disfigured the prior courthouse. What's more, arguably, Pittsburgh's air was often so thick that only weight, height, and massing would be perceptible. Richardson's primary references were the relatively plain medieval Romanesque buildings that he'd seen in France. But he did not hesitate to fuse this model with other influences. To these he added unprecedented scale and rustication. Most notably, the profound originality of his approach was singularly his and can only be described as Richardsonian Romanesque, much as one cannot refer to Frank Gehry's work without invoking his name. The public embraced this new style as singularly American, emblematic of a country that was as solid, robust, and self-confident as Richardson himself. This new style would be imitated across the United States and Canada. His break with academic classicism sparked a succession of distinctly American architects, most notably Louis Sullivan and Frank Lloyd Wright, thereby paving the way towards modernism in America.
From a 20th century perspective, it is a mark of the building's timelessness that the layering of space, complex staircases, and boldly articulated fenestration create an interior topography that has proven itself an appealing place for many different uses. Recently renewed, the building performs superbly for the county's evolving functions. As the courthouse has aged and undergone renewal, it projects strength without hubris. It appeals equally to those who have little to do with county business, particularly with the courtyard serving as a dramatic venue for events such as weddings.
One of the purposes of the 50-year Timeless Award is to draw attention to works of architecture that are often overlooked. Despite its obvious glories, civic purpose, and meticulous restoration, the Allegheny County Courthouse is such a building. No longer a feature of Pittsburgh's skyline, it sits near the Golden Triangle's periphery along the elevated I-579 expressway. As a result, and quite unlike Philadelphia City Hall, it no longer figures large in the public imagination. But for any history-minded architect, it should be the first place of pilgrimage upon arrival in Pittsburgh.
The Impact Designer Award recognizes a wide range of design disciplines held together by a common goal to design and create a better world through innovative, scalable, and measurable solutions. In the late 90s, as Emily Pearson Brown was entering the architecture profession, she could not readily see herself reflected in the designs, leadership, and goals of the industry. After years of learning how to advocate for herself and other women, Emily has dedicated her career to ensuring that anyone interested in designing the built environment can find themselves in those spaces. As an architect, planner, and most recently culture manager with Perkins Eastman, she prioritizes participatory planning and community engagement to create equitable and healthy communities with a strong sense of place. In addition to her professional calling, she was one of the founding members of Women in Design Pittsburgh, an organization of over 400 female and female-identified design professionals and allies who strive to build professional development skills, strengthen networks, and advocate for one another throughout the industry. Join us in congratulating 2022's Impact Designer, Emily Pearson Brown. This year's Emerging Professional Award and Associate Award nominees were put forward to the AIA Pennsylvania Board of Directors for approval by the AIA Pennsylvania Emerging Professionals Committee, or EPIC, led by Chair Parva Marque, AIA. The committee was responsible for putting forth their prospective nominations for each award, as well as vetting the nominees submitted by the membership at large to come to a final nomination to present to the board. This year, the Emerging Professionals Committee put forth 2 recipients for the Emerging Professional Award for final approval by the AIA Pennsylvania Board. The award seeks to recognize the exceptional achievements and future promise of a licensed architect and to promote their continuing development. Paul Avazier, an associate principal at Atkin Olshan Shade Architects in Philadelphia, exhibits leadership with active roles in the AIA and service to the public. He enjoys the challenges of his work as a designer and project manager, taking a thoughtful approach to resolving the complex issues encountered during planning, design, and construction. Through his roles at AIA Philadelphia, Paul's experience and involvement continue to positively shape the profession. As a past board member and president of AIA Philadelphia in 2020, he worked to promote change by supporting emerging professionals and design education programs. As an active AIA Philadelphia Committee Chair and current president of the Center for Architecture and Design, Paul continues to create lasting impacts on architecture and society. Congratulations, Paul! Dario McPhee is a Bohemian-born architect dedicated to advancing the relationship between people and the built environment. He is currently employed by Indovina Associates Architects. His track record of design excellence is extensive. He is currently using his experiences to help mentor the younger generation. He volunteers with AIA's PALM program, the National Organization of Minority Architects, or NOMA, Pittsburgh Chapter's project pipeline, and is team lead with NOMA Pittsburgh. He has participated in AIA Pittsburgh's Leadership Institute and is currently a member of the chapter's education committee and sits on the board of directors. Dario also works in the Wilkinsburg neighborhood to help alleviate displacement caused by gentrification. He uses his humble beginnings to fuel his career. He believes architects are responsible for creating spaces for people first. Congratulations, Dario. The Associate Award recognizes an AIA Pennsylvania associate member who has demonstrated outstanding leadership, creativity, and significant contributions to their communities, the architecture profession, and the AIA. Melanie Nagami is a recently registered architect at GBBN. She looks for opportunities to better understand the history, social, and emotional states of the communities she works with, so that together they can imagine and construct work that creates a positive impact for people in those communities. As co-leader of Project Pipeline summer camps for the National Organization of Minority Architects Pittsburgh chapter, Melanie works to increase the number of minority middle and high school students who are exposed to the practice of architecture. Melanie also volunteers with GBBN's annual Design Issues series, whose latest exhibition, Watershed, studied the state of tree canopies and watersheds in Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Louisville, and Minneapolis. Congratulations, Melanie! The AIA Pennsylvania Student Awards recognize annually an architecture student from each of Pennsylvania's 7 schools offering an NAAB-accredited architecture program. The following students were selected by their faculty and have proven to be proficient in both academics and design and ready to take on the challenges and responsibilities of the work environment in an architecture firm. Meet the 2022 Student Award recipients. From Carnegie Mellon University, Susie Kim, Bachelor of Architecture. Drexel University student, Julia Zephyr Martin, Bachelor of Architecture. From Marywood University, Tess Brown, Bachelor of Architecture. From Penn State University, Elliot Brau, Master of Architecture. Thomas Jefferson University student, Trevor Adams, Bachelor of Architecture. From Temple University, Luke Green, Master of Architecture. University of Pennsylvania student, Jamaica Reese Julian, Master of Architecture. Congratulations to the 2022 AIA Pennsylvania Student Award recipients. The following 29 firms are recognized for their commitment to the development of emerging professionals with the 2022 EPIC Firm Recognition. The American Institute of Architects defines emerging professionals as architecture graduates, pursuing licensure and architects licensed within the last 10 years. To be eligible for this designation, an emerging professional and a firm principal from each firm took the time to complete an assessment that provided checkpoints for 4 critical areas of an emerging professional's development: the Architectural Experience Program, AXP, leadership, support and equity, diversity and inclusion. Congratulations to 2022's EPIC firms, fostering the future of the profession throughout the Commonwealth. Atkin Ocean Shade Architects, Ballinger, BBLM Architects, BLT Architects, BRR Architecture, Crabtree, Rohrbrow and Associates Architects, Design Group, Digsaw, DLA Plus Architecture and Interior Design, Fancy Parsley Architecture and Design, FCA, Hayes Design Group Architects, HOK, Hunt EAS, Ian Smith Design Group, IKM, KCBA Architects, Kieran Timberlake, Leinhart Rogers Architecture and Interiors, Murphy and Dittenhafer Architects, PJA Architecture, RLPS Architects, SCF Architecture, Schrader Group Architecture, Stantec, Toner Architects, Union Studio Architecture, USA Architects, WTW Architects. Since 1923, Fenner & Essler Insurance Agency has been an innovative provider of insurance and risk management for architects and engineers. Known for their expertise in this specialized field, Fenner & Essler currently represents the interests of more than 1,200 firms of all sizes throughout the United States. Fenner & Essler is the commended insurance provider to the AIA of Pennsylvania and an active member of numerous AIA state and local chapters. If your firm has had claims, Fenner & Essler can offer an effective strategy to manage these claims that can help further reduce risk and help better manage both your future insurance costs and coverage. Visit Fenner & Essler online or connect with them on LinkedIn. In late September, Elizabeth Whitaker, principal of Merge Architects and 2022 AIA Pennsylvania Architectural Excellence Design Awards chair, brought together two accomplished Boston-based architects, practicing in varied firm sizes and sectors to serve on this year's Design Awards jury. Mimi Love and Nick Winton joined Beth at her office for a full and enjoyable day of reviewing the 116 eligible projects submitted to this year's Design Awards program.
I really enjoy being on juries. I love to be that person in the room, seeing, what the profession is doing, having insights to work that is really stellar.
I think it's great to have a venue and a purpose to actually sit for 6 or 7 hours and deliberate over these projects and really get in the weeds.
One of the things that always surprises me is how robust the conversation becomes when you get together with your fellow jurors, and how expansive the work you're reviewing becomes as well. It's such a pleasure for us is to really get to know these firms better. There's some exceptional work happening here, and we're learning a lot from the process.
The AIA Pennsylvania process is a new experience for me, but I have been incredibly impressed.
The value of these awards programs is that it allows the profession to advance itself, to speak to the larger audience and showcase the work it's not just beautiful, but that it actually serves a larger and very important social purpose.
It is a small community at the end of the day in the U.S., the architecture community. And I think that it's important to get a buzz about what you're up to be part, again, of that discussion and conversation with your colleagues and your future colleagues.
That level of refinement, practice, iteration really helps everyone, refine their methodology, their point of view, and to refine their future goals of where their practice needs to be.
It really forces a firm to evaluate their own work and stand back a little bit and be rigorous about their own understanding of what they're doing and how they present it.
I think we should all be proud of our work. And I think it's important to throw it out there in the arena for discussion, for better or for worse.
The jury recognizes projects deemed worthy of award with the following levels of distinction. Silver medal. A silver medal may be granted at the jury's discretion to the project that distinguishes itself from the rest of the submissions, representing the highest level of achievement. Honor award. An honor award may be granted at the jury's discretion to projects that exemplified distinguished achievement in any category. Merit award. A merit award may be granted at the jury's discretion to any project that either lies outside of the other categories or bears an exceptional aspect that the jury feels represents excellence which deserves recognition. The jury selected 8 projects for merit award recognition. In the category of preservation architecture, Kieran Timberlake is the recipient of a merit award for bulletin building renovation. Adaptive reuse of the bulletin building transforms a 1955 structure into contemporary life science space as centerpiece of the emerging Schuylkill Yards Innovation District. A new high-performance eastern facade is bold on the urban scale and sensitive to the original design intent, dramatically increasing light and view while reducing energy loads. The juxtaposition of new and old creates a conversation across time, establishing a paradigm for renovation of mid-century structures.
The bulletin building project, we felt was really, in a way, a very clever and effective adaptive reuse project, as much as it is a preservation project. And the architecture itself was beautifully rendered in terms of this idea of creating this ultra-transparent facade that connects both the interior program and the newly developed park together. It's really nice. I think throughout the history of the building, this is a kind of third or fourth, maybe fourth phase of its evolution, and it's probably its most sophisticated and elegant.
Congratulations, Kieran Timberlake. In the category of Impact Design, R3A Architecture is the recipient of a Merit Award for Digital Foundry at New Kensington. Responding to the need for economic revitalization and technical reskilling, the Digital Foundry at New Kensington aims to refresh the Rust Belt community. The objective is to attract, retain, and create businesses in New Kensington and offer employment to local residents. The project includes Computer Technology Lab, a multi-purpose workforce training center that can be subdivided into classrooms, collaboration areas, meeting rooms, office space, demonstration area, and high bay garage.
This is a project that we just thought provides a great community asset to the neighborhood. It is a basically large maker space. It's not only to provide, be an economic engine for the area, but also to be a place for the community to develop their skills, both digital and fabrication. We thought that it was aspirational within its, the architecture inside would be, inspiring to the community members who actually use it. But I think this is one where we were really excited about the programmatic benefit to the community and the impact that it has.
Congratulations, R3A Architecture. In the category of architecture, Digsaw is the recipient of a Merit Award for Gettysburg Montessori Charter School. The joyful Gettysburg Montessori Charter School renovation and addition has been transformative in fostering interaction and community among this tight-knit K-6 public charter school. This project consolidates all school activities into one cohesive, community-oriented building with high-quality classroom space, gathering areas, library, art, music and performance, and administrative offices. The two wings of classrooms are organized and color-coded by age range.
We really loved the simplicity of this project, using just a simple gable shed typology, which we assume this is a very tight budget project. Being a school, they typically are. It doesn't overdo its kind of branding of its program, which is for kids. It does use color very selectively and kind of wonderfully skillful at it on the exterior, which really shapes this outdoor courtyard space for the kids to play, and also provides this really great view because of the cant of the building itself. You can see from a classroom through the green space back out to the facade of the other half leg of one of these bar buildings. So you actually get this overlay of color, transparency, and the biophilia and the vegetation of the site all at once. The interior is more of the same, but a little more subdued because I think you're a little more close up on the inside spaces. They're very intimate, appropriately so, and so the use of color is played throughout in a very consistent way, but again more sparingly on the interior to shape these spaces and help zone and in terms of announcing the kind of distinction of program within.
Congratulations, Digsaw. In the category of small project, KJO Architecture is the recipient of a Merit Award for House B. House B reconfigures the classic 3-story Philadelphia row home. The traditional entry sequence is unexpectedly interrupted by inserting a split-level foyer accessed at sidewalk level, serving as a buffer from street noise while creating visual privacy for the elevated living spaces beyond. Circulation to the upper levels is organized around a 2-story light well serving as a focal point from the interior and a dramatic, transparent rear wall from the exterior.
One of the real pleasures of this project is the way that it is both very contextual and also really deviates from the context at the same time of this particular streetscape. The project has a beautiful kind of frontispiece elevation that's rendered in masonry and with a lot of depth, and it's also just slightly different, just different enough from its neighboring houses to reveal the change or maybe deviation of this section of this project from the surrounding conventional 3-story buildings. So I think that at the end of the day, we felt that this was both really deft and but also restrained, and we really appreciated how the domestic program of the house still lives really naturally and comfortably within a sophisticated architectural language.
Congratulations, KJO Architecture. In the category of single-family residential, Biondo Projects is the recipient of a Merit Award for House on Fifth. House on Fifth is an entry-level dwelling, an architect's self-initiated exercise in challenging and developing a local architecture within a working-class community. The highly efficient plan and unadorned, childlike form is coupled with a curious deployment of ordinary materials. The result is a high-quality, fiscally accessible house that will assume an important role as a contextually relevant backdrop within an everyday neighborhood.
It's a very small project. We really loved its use and a kind of restraint with just, again, in this case, 2 materials. An asphalt shingle, which is typically not thought of as a kind of an architecture's dream material to work with, and also brick, which is often. But the use of asphalt as a vertical siding and cladding system, where so many architects are trying to use the wall cladding as a roof, this architect used what really does work as a roof as a wall cladding or an exterior cladding, so we thought that was really clever. The material itself, which is never thought of as precious, is actually treated in a very precise way in terms of its patterning and scale and rhythm and so on of the horizontality, in combination with the 2 brick ends of the building, which are very carefully laid out with a kind of mortar joint that even is a kind of odd extrusion out from the face of the facade. So that was really surprising. There's a ton of texture that wraps this building. Every single window is so specifically considered, and there are kind of a variety of details of each one. They change subtly, which I won't get into here, but it's a project worth spending some time on. It's the kind of project that reveals itself as you get closer to it, I think. The interior was surprisingly light-filled, given the minimal window apertures in ratio to volume. And we just thought it was a really smart project, and it does look like an architect's house that they would build for themselves, and that's what we learned that it is. So it makes a lot of sense to us. So it's just a beautiful little project, and we really enjoyed it.
Congratulations, Biondo Projects. In the category of preservation architecture, Ballinger is the recipient of a Merit Award for Kinesiology Building. A century ago, when Albert Kahn designed the University of Michigan's Krause Building, Kahn met their laboratory needs by adopting the innovations of factory design, aimed at maximizing daylight to an academic setting. The cutting edge of science has moved on, and today the university's 4th largest school is kinesiology. The university needed to consolidate the school's programs, scattered across multiple buildings, into a single home with room for expansion.
The big move was inserting a large atrium in the center of the plan. This is an Albert Kahn building that was converted to a classroom lab building for the kinesiology department. But we were so struck by the contrast and the composition of that center atrium stair. The contrast being, it really looks like a new insertion into an existing fabric, which we really appreciated the clarity of that move. The additional thing that it really does, a performative aspect, is that it allows a lot of light into the center of a pretty, blocky building to just ooze light into the rest of the spaces. It has this, wonderful stair and a place for students to gather that we thought was pretty brilliantly executed.
Congratulations, Ballinger and Associate Architect, TMP Architecture. In the category of architecture, WRT is the recipient of a Merit Award for NC5. NC5 is a resident-driven, sustainable urban community demonstrating the symbiotic relationship between the built and natural environments, activating a dynamic urban neighborhood. The program brings a comprehensive approach to revitalization, linking new and rehabilitated housing with well-functioning services, schools, public assets, transportation, and access to jobs, while the expansive outdoor spaces promotes physical and mental health, wellness, and healthy urban ecologies, reducing the adverse environmental impacts of city use.
So NC5 is a fairly substantial housing project that is both new construction and adaptation of an existing, I believe a HUD housing as well. One of the things that we were impressed by is a kind of adept way that it recreates the massing of the building along the street, giving the scale of the building a much more approachable character. There was a couple of moments of new construction actually also that we felt were really, really lovely and helped to kind of imbue a level of sophistication and composition with this project. It's obviously a very important community resource, and we really felt that it's very hard to achieve a kind of urban character, both in scale or landscape or use of different ways of entering the project for such a low budget. It's really a design achievement in that regard. So we were very excited to support this project.
Congratulations, WRT. In the category of regional and urban design, Port is the recipient of a Merit Award for Waterside Park. Waterside Park is a new 89-acre park in Washington County, Pennsylvania. At the epicenter of Pennsylvania's fracking industry, the project attempts to elevate the consideration of ecological assets and civic infrastructure in the public imagination of one of the most conservative counties in the state. The park will become a civic center for gathering and nature-based recreation for the North Franklin Township community.
The jury, we gravitated toward this one because it really gave us a sense of place. The most, I would say, out of the submissions, although there were some spectacular ideas on the table with the others. This project is a kind of a meandering path through this vegetated landscape that then touches and aligns with and allows for access to the river, And what's I think is really nice about it, it's very quiet in terms of its architecture, its tectonics, but its impact is not in terms of its accessibility, its kind of connectivity. It's very long, from both the beginning and end or the ends of this path where you get on and off. But it meanders through the woods, it hits the river's edge, it lands in a part of the urban condition of this area. And it also does have a very thoughtful and mindful approach to the tectonics, both in its path, which often engages and sits within the ground, but also elevates and floats above it at times. And then it takes that detailing and idea about relationship to the ground, to the street furniture and the benches, and how some of them hover over the ground plane. And it really kind of calls out the slight sectional changes in the topography, which is very subtle and quite beautiful and quite soft. So there was a softness and kind of intimacy to the series of renderings, and also the way that we could all kind of imagine ourselves in this place.
Congratulations, Port. For over 35 years, Rich Davies, the managing partner of the Pennsylvania office of Milber Macris, has been legal counsel to the architects and engineers of Pennsylvania. He and his partners Kevin Dmachowski and Vittoria Green provide a wide range of services to design professionals, such as defending them in claims and litigation, assisting them in contract preparation and review, providing risk management advice, and advising on licensure compliance. Welcome Rich Davies, Honorary AIA.
Hello, I'm Rich Davies, Managing Partner of the Pennsylvania office of Milber Macris, Counsel to AIA Philadelphia, and member of the Legal Reform Task Force of AIA PA's Government Affairs Committee. But more important to the moment, I am proudly sponsoring this Design and COTE Awards event to recognize the extraordinary design talent of the Pennsylvania design community. Congratulations to all awardees. Your work continues to make me feel privileged to support and work among you. And I want to extend a special thank you to the panels of the judges who have made this possible. So thank you to the members of the Design Awards panel, Elizabeth Whitaker, Nick Winton, and Mimi Love. And thank you to the members of the COTE Awards panel, Tamar Warburg, Jeffrey Geisinger, and Ashley Rao. I hope you enjoy the evening.
Now in its third year, the Architectural Excellence COTE Awards, presented by the Committee on the Environment, celebrates the highest standards of design excellence, prioritizing community connection, equity, economic value, resilience, and stewardship of the natural environment. The program is supported by the trio of COTE leaders credited with the development of the AIA Framework for Design Excellence Assessment. Join us in recognizing Brian Smiley, Jonathan Weiss, and Sherman Aronson for their continued dedication to the development and rollout of the assessment tool used for both the local AIA Philadelphia Awards program and state program. This year's COTE Awards jury was made up of a panel of Boston-based professionals independent of the Design Awards jury. Tamar Warburg, Jeff Geisinger, and Ashley Rao gathered virtually to review the 33 eligible submissions through the lens of the following AIA Framework for Design Excellence measures, indicating how buildings perform for the health and wellness of the occupants, communities, and the environments they serve. Design for integration. What's the big idea? How does the project demonstrate the intersection of design excellence and sustainable performance? Design for equitable communities. How does this project make the most of its surrounding community, integrate with it, and give back? Design for ecology. How does this project respond, connect, and contribute to the surrounding ecosystem? Design for water. How does the project use water wisely and handle rainfall responsibly? Design for economy. How does the design show that higher performance can be cost-effective? Design for energy. How much energy does the project use? Is any of that energy generated on-site from renewable sources? And what's the net carbon impact? Design for wellness. How does the design promote the comfort and health of those who spend time in it? Design for resources. How are the decisions about the materials used based on an understanding of their impact, especially carbon impact? Design for change. How does the project design anticipate adapting to new uses, adapt to climate change, and support resilient recovery from disasters? Design for discovery. What lessons for better design have been learned? The jury selected 2 projects to be recognized with a COTE citation. Projects recognized with a COTE citation are cited with an honorable mention for achievement and/or goals aligning with one or more of the AIA Framework for Design Excellence measures. Atkin Olshan Shade Architects receives a COTE citation for Philadelphia Contemporary Gallery. The gallery is supported by Beam, who served as the project's schematic lighting designer. Beam creates illuminating spaces to live, work, reflect, play, and learn. Beam's lighting design energizes interiors, enlivens facades, and engages with landscapes in a manner that brings thoughtful purpose in its design. A new permanent home for Philadelphia Contemporary is envisioned as a floating art gallery on the Delaware River between the Cherry and Race Street piers. The 15,000 square foot 2-story structure will be built on a barge that accommodates a lobby, guest services, galleries, performance spaces, an artist's studio, classroom, offices, and a cafe. The design of the floating gallery reflects a commitment to the site, the natural environment, and community engagement. The jury recognizes Philadelphia Contemporary Gallery for the framework principle of design for discovery. Jurors remarked, an intriguing design for a community arts organization in a prominent center city waterfront spot. The holistic sustainability approach includes passive strategies for solar shading and ventilation, photovoltaics and heat pumps, and a mass timber structure. If the gallery is built as designed, it could be a great teaching tool for environmental design, offering a new perspective on public access to the Schuylkill River. Congratulations, Atkin Olshan Shade Architects! Architect of record Kramer and Marks Architects and design architect Ian Smith Design Group receive a COTE citation for Vare Recreation Center. Improvement design that encompasses a full city block for indoor and outdoor municipal neighborhood recreation space in a historically disinvested and underserved African American community in South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The jury recognizes Vare Recreation Center for the framework principles of design for equitable communities and economy. Jurors remarked, through the stakeholder engagement process and co-designed STOOP, it was clear that this project centers the voices of the community it serves. The jury recognized the creative ways the project achieved a vibrant street presence and connection to landscape on a tight budget. Congratulations, Ian Smith Design Group and Kramer and Marks Architects. The following 3 projects selected for a COTE Award are recognized for commendable achievement and/or goals aligning with one or more AIA framework for design excellence measures. Bright Common receives a COTE Award for Red Clay Passive. Red Clay Passive considers how a site with a rich cultural past can adapt to a climate variable future. By prioritizing generational resiliency strategies alongside low embodied and operational carbon, the project investigates how a home can utilize emerging technologies to engage in responsible development while connecting to its vernacular context. The result is a carbon sink, a project that sequesters more carbon than it uses from cradle to gate. The jury recognizes Red Clay Passive for its achievements in the framework principles of design for energy and water. Jurors remarked, for a single-family home in a rural area, this house does it all. Passive house, net zero, ground source, heat pump, rooftop solar, low embodied carbon, panelization. It includes convincing references to local vernacular design. Congratulations, Bright Common! Bolin Sawinski Jackson receives a COTE Award for Tonewood Brewing Tap Room. Tonewood Brewing Tap Room is an adaptive reuse of a 1960s lumber yard in Barrington, New Jersey that creates a state-of-the-art craft beer tasting room and production facility. The project responds to the family-run brewery's core values of quality, community, and sustainability. The jury recognizes Tonewood Brewing Tap Room for its achievements in the framework principle of design for integration. Jurors remarked, the project demonstrates how carefully considered design can revitalize an existing industrial building to create a sustainable and future-looking home for a local business. We were impressed by how the project integrates an economic selection of upgrades from locally sourced wood to on-site renewables and rainwater capture to create a transformation that is greater than the sum of its parts. Even elements of the brewing process, such as the recapturing of carbon dioxide from fermentation, show a deep commitment to sustainability. Congratulations, Bolin Sawinski Jackson! Bolin Sawinski Jackson receives a COTE Award for Valdez STEM and Innovation Center. With its collaborative spaces and dedicated labs for innovation and science, the project will empower a new generation of creative minds at Green Hill. A modular approach to classroom design will ensure spaces can adapt to changing use and technologies. And as a teaching tool, the building will provide tactile opportunities for students to learn about integrated, sustainable design through its mass timber structure, daylight autonomy, rainwater harvesting, and energy conservation. The jury recognizes Valdez STEM and Innovation Center for the framework principles for design for water, ecosystems, and well-being. Jurors remarked, with the lofty goal of transforming the building into a learning tool, the project incorporates many active and passive sustainability strategies: orientation for solar orientation, thoughtful solar shading, north-facing clerestory daylighting, solar photovoltaics, and rainwater collection and filtration for irrigation. The team included solar radiation analysis and energy modeling with an impressive predicted energy use intensity of 14. They also conducted a life cycle assessment reducing embodied carbon per square foot with an intended mass timber structure. If built as designed, this will be an exciting and innovating project in North Texas. Congratulations, Bolin Sawinski Jackson. The COTE Award of Excellence recognizes a project that demonstrates excellence across several measures of the AIA framework for design excellence. Ballinger receives a COTE Award of Excellence for the Kinesiology Building. A century ago, when Albert Kahn designed the University of Michigan's Krause Building, Kahn met their laboratory needs by adopting the innovations of factory design aimed at maximizing daylight to an academic setting. The cutting edge of science has moved on, and today the university's fourth largest school is kinesiology. The university needed to consolidate the school's programs, scattered across multiple buildings, into a single home with room for expansion. The jury recognizes the Kinesiology Building for its achievements in the framework principles of design for resources, change, integration, and energy. Jurors remarked, "This creative, adaptive reuse of an iconic 1914 structure feels both surprising and inevitable. The transformation of the courtyard into the skylit commons is a dynamic expression of the kinesiology program. The stair and guardrail details express fluid movement. Sustainability metrics are impressive. Embodied carbon of 30 kilograms of carbon dioxide per square foot for a significant reduction relative to new construction, energy use intensity reduction of 63% from baseline, airtight envelope redesign, 89% Forest Stewardship Council certified wood, and LEED Gold." The Kinesiology Building team explored a great many opportunities for integrated, environmentally responsible, and delightful design. Congratulations, Ballinger and Associate Architect, TMP Architecture.
Building design and construction is changing with new materials, technology, and advanced construction methods. New, innovative materials can help meet these needs. To stay competitive, general contractors and subcontractors have to adapt to this changing environment. To answer the challenges of this evolving market, manufacturers like Oldcastle are creating new ways to address the needs of the owner, architect, and contractor alike. When the Les Stump Ford dealership in Appleton, Wisconsin was designing their new facility, the architect needed to meet updated energy codes, and the owner needed the durability of a masonry building. They selected Insultech from Oldcastle's Echelon masonry product line for the exterior walls and new automatic car wash bay. From the outside, Insultech looks like a traditional masonry wall, but each block contains a full wall assembly with a finished exterior and interior face along with insulation. Insultech is a complete thermally broken insulated masonry system, which includes a full complement of blocks and concrete masonry units. Insultech offers high thermal efficiency in an innovative design, which combines a pre-assembled structural masonry unit, a molded insulation insert, and a thin veneer face. Insultech, where innovation meets style and performance.
The Allied Trades Award, renamed in 2019 in honor of Raymond J. Sinagra's collaborative Whatever It Takes spirit and dedication to the AEC community, is presented for contributions to the built environment by a contractor, developer, civil engineer, or other allied professional. The award honors those professionals who bring architects' work into reality and who uphold the tenets of design, sustainability, and collaboration. Keystone Hood built its reputation working with some of the most renowned Pennsylvania architectural firms. Since the firm's founding in 1953, Keystone Hood has been known for its collaborative problem-solving and innovative structural solutions. As the firm embarks upon its next chapter and third generation of ownership this year, they are excited to expand their reputation to include a commitment to sustainable design as a signatory firm of the Structural Engineers 2050 Commitment Program. As a certified women business enterprise, Keystone Hood continues to uphold a commitment to diversity that has been characteristic of the firm for many years. Congratulations, Keystone Hood. The contribution to the profession by a non-architect award honors individuals, corporations, associations, or other groups who do not practice architecture. Recipients may be cited for their direct contributions to the profession, applied research, or through other disciplines that are allied with architects or enhance the practice of architecture. Linda Metropolis has been working in real estate development in Pittsburgh since 1995 when she founded Artists and Cities, creating artist live workspaces in East Liberty and Lawrenceville. In 2005, her development work became entwined with the work of Action Housing, leading to a focus on housing that is beautifully designed, affordable, healthier, and sustainable. Linda's interests in the arts and artists, historic buildings, energy efficiency, healthier interiors, affordability, and community development is evidenced in her portfolio of new and renovated buildings. Linda spearheaded Action Housing's development of 4 passive house projects between 2012 and 2018, helping to demonstrate that high energy standards could be used for affordable housing without significantly increased costs. Her efforts over 25 years were collaborations with many like-minded people who she worked alongside in the realization of these projects. Congratulations, Linda! At Offit Kerman, we understand how to navigate the daily legal challenges of running a design firm. From professional licensure, contract negotiation, risk management, claims, and litigation, our lawyers have been assisting clients solve legal, professional practice, and business challenges for years. The Offit Kerman team focuses on helping their architectural and engineering clients in an efficient and cost-effective manner. Our unparalleled experience and knowledge can help guide you through your professional practice and business needs. The jury selected 9 Honor Award recipients. An Honor Award may be granted at the jury's discretion to projects that exemplify distinguished achievement in any category. In the category of single-family residential, Digsaw is the recipient of an Honor Award for Barnegat House. The owner's design for a more humble surf shack is expressed through simplicity of form, active street presence, and focus on indoor-outdoor connections. This home stands in contrast to the highly articulated homes dominated by tuck-under parking and storage, which have replaced the modest, simple structures that historically gave beach towns a coherent architectural charm.
It is another project that was wonderfully restrained using one material, this wood, for basically everything, and we thought it was very elegant. It's definitely a really fresh take on the Cape, not the Cape, but rather the gable vernacular. I think that there was a brilliant kind of tectonic, albeit modest and subtle, with the verticality of the cladding versus the different scale verticality of the rail. And then there are a couple of screened moments that even have a slightly different width of plank that wrap the building as well. So again, there's a really nice rhythm to the exterior and the way that it sits within the context of the rest of the neighborhood.
I really appreciate how, even though the language of the project is fairly conventional and vernacular, the treatment, the way that the skin is treated as either opaque or transparent or a kind of filtering element really felt very rigorous to us. I also liked how it kind of broke the type or broke from the type. It looks like the kind of context of houses there, which this over porch and under parking was reinterpreted here in a beautiful way.
Yeah, and I think one, efficiency with the design is the way they use the vertical, either planks or, square railings very consistently. And those were the moments that you really focused on as design moves, but yet they were so simple in their materiality. There was nothing custom, there was nothing special. Really good use of off-the-shelf material in a clever way.
Congratulations, Digsaw. In the category of architecture, Ballinger is the recipient of an honor award for Facitelli Center for Advanced Engineering. Facitelli Center for Advanced Engineering began as a master planning initiative to develop a cross-discipline teaching and research complex that would enable the University of Rhode Island College of Engineering to meet the ever-changing technology demands and global reach of engineering. In addition to creating a distinctive new campus identity and visibility for the college, it also creates a vibrant place of interaction and innovation for the entire URI community.
This is a really big project, and I think one of the achievements of the project is that it breaks the site into these really occupiable and understandable urban spaces that are connected in different ways through stairs or different levels, and the building really develops the section around those outdoor spaces. I think we all thought that the treatment of the glass of the skin was very sophisticated and was used to modulate the interior space through circulation zones or through translucency or other ways that revealed the interior or concealed it.
And by that, I think the way we thought of it is there were a series of layered spatial conditions that happened because of the reflectivity or the transparency, depending on the time of day, or the frit on a glass, or the proximity of a sheetrock wall beyond the facade because it was actually a room instead of a large open space. And so that sort of interplay both benefits the facade because it's so transparent, so you understand it differently as you rotate around it at different times of the day and in the photographs we saw, and also has the spatial kind of experience on the interior when one would get borrowed light deep within the footprint because of this layered kind of spatial condition of the facade. So it was really artful in its use of glass.
I think we also really appreciated the tectonics of the exterior, the stacking of boxes that actually were carried through. It's not always easy to stack boxes and get clean alignments or ceilings that perfectly align with soffits. We know that tectonically those are challenges, and we saw that consistency around the whole project. The other thing that we had a good discussion on is how it navigated the topography. It really has moments where the urban conditions of slope are pretty cleverly dealt with by placing the volumes at different levels and then having terraces that navigate that grade change.
Congratulations to Ballinger and Associate Architect DBVW Architects. In the category of Small Project, KJO Architecture is the recipient of an honor award for Flag Lot 5. The site for these tucked-away row homes is a flag lot in a dense residential neighborhood accessible via a secluded pedestrian path on one side and private alley on the other. These units are flipped front to back with the entrances facing a private garden courtyard. The massing at the fronts varies and shifts, the stacked and recessed volumes evoking the organic pattern of small rear additions traditionally seen in Philadelphia's row home neighborhoods.
So it's not a big project, but got a lot of kind of formal dynamism and urbanism in these small little figures. And so we were struck by how typical townhouses, there's a clear division, i.e. party wall at times, between each unit. And this was a clever kind of puzzling of different square rectangular volumes at the facade that shifted in elevation so that it blurred that edge between the units, which created this wonderfully varied facade that was highly textural, both in elevation as well as plan, where a lot of these volumes would shift back and forth in plan. And so there is kind of surprisingly a lot of repetition, which we always look for in a housing project, but somehow through the repetition in these 4 or 5 moves created this sense of variety as a kind of facade and formal and volumetric reading.
I would say too, the other thing that we found really exciting is all of the outdoor occupiable spaces, narrow slots between volumes, rooftops, variety of dimensions of these spaces. you could imagine those easily as an extension of the interior space, and thought that was pretty well considered in this project.
Yeah, and I think we were taken by the kind of character of the elevation and how it animates the interior urban kind of garden space that's created by a flag lot. And this kind of inversion of the front door facing the interior of the block was really kind of exciting and different, and fully animated by the things that we just mentioned. So it was really kind of a lot of pleasure in the entire project.
Congratulations, KJO Architecture. In the category of architecture, Kieran Timberlake is the recipient of an honor award for Foreign Affairs Security Training Center. Located on a 1,350-acre site, the Foreign Affairs Security Training Center provides life-saving security training to Department of State personnel. Training is provided in 19 distinct venues, including firearms facilities, simulated tactical environments, 2 explosive pads, and 19 miles of specialized driving courses. Repeatable and economical construction systems establish an architectural language that is flexible enough to use on numerous dispersed buildings of varying use, scale, and context.
I think at first it's important to note that we felt that the program, there's a lot of discussion about the program in terms of whether it was in fact a kind of defensive, it was organized around a defensive strategy for protecting American service people overseas in the State Department. And that was important for us to get comfortable with that and understand the program. Once we did, and that was true, we felt that the rigor of the design was really unmistakable. It's a super high craft, a very deft touch with the various buildings, and a kind of even though it is a kind of campus, it's also a quiet and pristine environment where we imagined people would come here for a short period of time to train and then leave. And so the impact of these specific buildings and spaces would be quite effective.
I think we were also surprised by the museum quality of the design. Really impressive resolution, beautiful use of materials, really a dream project. But ironically, we imagine it's one that's not really open to the public. And that commitment by the quality of this architecture was really impressive to us, and had a lot of good discussion around that topic.
I think the detailing is exquisite, both at large and small scale. It is kind of an interesting project to think of it as a campus design, given that the outdoor spaces are very sparse. And we talked a lot about that because I think if we were judging this as a student innovation center, for example, we may have been a little more critical about the kind of quad at the courtyards and so on. But we realized that it was pretty spot on in terms of the environment and atmosphere that this architecture, I think, wants and probably does evoke in terms of the seriousness of the program. So I think there's a real relationship of that condition and experience of place and space that resonated with the program within, with regard to this being a kind of learning center of defense and keeping the State Department personnel safe overseas. And I think the architecture was also speaking about a level of precision that also, I think, resonated very much with the kind of program and the learning that was going on within.
Congratulations, Kieran Timberlake. In the category of architecture, Bright Common is the recipient of an honor award for Riverside Row. Riverside Row utilizes an adjacent stormwater management garden as a genesis for communal-focused urban design. It presents a dynamic response to an underutilized condition and provides residents with exterior spaces distinct amongst a city of stoops. The project favors density appropriately tuned to the surrounding urban fabric while thoughtfully considering the role of open space and setbacks in relieving congested streetscapes.
This project is really smart in how it dealt with the orthogonality of the grid of the street and also the slight angularity of one side of the project, which actually faces the highway. So it cants out, given the site plan, from the building. And when I say it cants, I mean this low wall courtyard space making device, which is this brick wall. And what's wonderful about that, we really talked about how that was so much bang for the buck in terms of, it is a brick wall, but it's very low. There's not that much of it, but it was the one moment in the project that was allowed to unleash a bit. Again, because it's not form, it's planar. And because of its adjacency and varying proximity to the actual building form creates these really interesting series of forecourts into a lot of these units. So that really provided a more pedestrian scale to those passers-by, but also, of course, to the people who live there and their entry sequence into their unit.
Well, I think that the other thing about this project is that it's not afraid to use form and architectural craft, if you will, around a low-budget project and still get a wonderful, sophisticated result through shadow and relief and a kind of I would say a kind of modernist tension that's really nice to see in a lot of projects. And in some of the images, you can see how the site's really gritty. It doesn't reflect badly upon the building or vice versa. They just are really very much in sync with each other.
Yeah, and I think they took advantage of that grittiness, or they took that as an opportunity, which I find really inspiring. Just accepting the location right on the highway, but really having that forecourt, that brick, entry area to each of the unit. It's actually quite lovely and kind of distinguishes that urban condition and allows them to enter the dwelling and reset. I thought that was actually quite a nice move.
Congratulations, Bright Common. In the category of Unbuilt, ISA is the recipient of an honor award for Sawyer Art Apartments. The Sawyer Art Apartments project encourages active street life and incremental, right-sized development, plugging into Detroit's new biking and pedestrian streetscape improvements along West McNichols Road in the Live 6 community. With a pitched roof relating to adjacent homes, the walk-up portion of the 38-unit building has active residential entries accessed through a public landscaped plaza and a common amenity deck framed by Detroit-based artist Tylon J. Sawyer's murals.
I think one of the things that we just liked simply was the composition. There's a moment of delight in just seeing these forms, how they come together. This project was in collaboration with the community. It seemed there's a lot of community engagement built for the community, and along with artists who are clearly part of the collaboration. That was just really exciting for us to see how the architecture and the art itself really engaged and created a really wonderful place. This is one that we were like, we really hope to see this one built.
It has one of the couple of projects today that have a really great second level outdoor deck area or terrace area that again has this great dialogue with the streetscape because it's so close to it, the sidewalk. It is super bare bones in terms of the facade and materiality and window placement, although it's clever and slightly playful in terms of the composition. But I think more importantly, it got a lot of mileage out of some big scalar moves with the profile of these boxy buildings that in one case, in one part of the facade mimics a kind of gable roof at a super size, and then it sort of unravels into this more freeform, angular, faceted roof plane and geometry juxtaposed to the context and the vernacular of the surrounding neighborhood.
I think we're also not surprised that the firm that designed this project is also the same firm that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
design to our other award-winning projects that observe a very similar design vocabulary and approach to the kind of urban character of the building. And it seems to be working really well in all of these projects. It's really a great conceptual conceit for the projects.
And I think one of the things to note is that it is an affordable housing project. So that really, encouraged us to see affordable projects can, provide good architecture, and is something that, we definitely were very, very receptive and encouraged by.
Congratulations, ISA! In the category of architecture, Bolin Sawinski Jackson is the recipient of an honor award for Siebel Center for Design. The Siebel Center for Design at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign provides a hub for practicing, modeling, and teaching design thinking through experimentation, prototyping, and making. The 60,000 square foot project provides light-filled, technology-enabled, and easily reconfigurable spaces to help students find the ideal setting and tools to suit their creative needs. Strategies for well-being, resource efficiency, and equity were integral to the project's LEED Gold design.
I think we all felt that this was a project that relied on a very, very clear partie and engagement with its immediate landscape. I thought that was the synthesis of building and landscape was very strong here. And once you're in the interior, the system of concrete and steel and a kind of overall envelope, luminous working environment, this white, illuminated, painted space was really engaging and beautiful. And then there were these moments of maybe more design intensity that were captured in wood. I just thought it was a really thoughtful and deft project.
I think it's really strategic in terms of the white on white on white on white in the interior, and the way that it uses all the components, the furniture, the ceiling, the grid of the lights, the perforated metal, the stair rail, and so on. It's all the same color palette, and I think it's more or less all steel as well, so there's like a thinness to it. And I think it's really brilliant because I think by nature they wanted this very open, collaborative, interactive plan, which could be chaotic. And so I think this was a way to kind of unify all the different programmatic spaces and activities that were happening into this one singular, in this case, color palette. And so it's also beautiful to see the articulation of all these different layers of components throughout the spaces.
I think too, just building upon that, Beth, what's also interesting is that palette, the consistency, could come off as a precious space where you don't want to mess up, or you don't want to really, it's an innovation center. It needs to be a little bit messy. It needs to be a place where, the students feel comfortable to explore. And somehow they pull it off with that palette. And I think that was really refreshing to see. The quality of daylight in each one of these spaces also is spectacular. It's primarily a ground floor building, but it does have a lower level with studios below. But even those studios below have really beautiful, access to daylight, beautiful clear stories. And so that was another thing that we were quite excited to see.
It's also one of those buildings that has a lot of cuts in terms of atria type spaces. So you get this sectional layering and activity when you're actually occupying some of these main spaces within the building, which is really exciting to see, or I would imagine would be exciting to be in.
Congratulations to Bolin Sawinski Jackson and Associate Local Architect, Ratio Architects. In the category of Unbuilt, Umbra Architects is the recipient of an honor award for the Carriage House. The Carriage House engages in a dialogue, old and new, past and future, and emerges as a symbol for the adaptability of the city of Detroit. It will provide places to live, work, and play through both new construction and the adaptive reuse of the historic structure. Sensitive to the local context and history of Brush Park, this development continues the positive resurgence and revival in Detroit.
This one was a really interesting grafting of old and new, and not in a cliche way at all. It was literally grafting onto this old architecture and masonry grandeur of this area in Detroit. And it was just a wonderful mix of these two architectures, and it wasn't shy about sandwiching literally this old, or the new rather, over the old construction. It takes on this kind of interplay of a super scale, almost a scalelessness to it, and its orthogonal sort of large void openings, and it has this wonderful transparency, which is completely in contrast to the super opaque masonry of the vernacular of the neighborhood, but has this wonderful kind of synthesis between these two worlds, all on one singular facade and streetscape.
I think the thing that was also really exciting to see is the diversity of the section. There's so many, types of spaces, tall spaces, compressed spaces, elongated spaces, and that ambition of the section really works well too with the programmatic, mix inside this building. Really competent in terms of manipulating the section and defining it in a really simple diagram.
Yeah, and one of the main sections in the deck actually shows how it cuts this void through the middle of the building and kind of shifts it in section, allowing light to fill in, of course, and then backlight through the spaces and program out to the street. So I can imagine at night it's an unbuilt project, but it would be pretty spectacular to have the interior backlit and coming through on the streetscape.
I also just really appreciated the use of the cast-in-place concrete structural language as a kind of critical part of its thinness, its expression as a kind of shell-like structure. The lightness of it and the sense of openness in contrast to that understory, that old masonry understory, is really beautiful. I think as an unbuilt project, it has a kind of visionary character I think is important.
Congratulations, Umbra Architects! In the category of unbuilt, Umbra Architects is the recipient of an honor award for Urban Boathouse. The Urban Boathouse strives to connect an urban canal to its surrounding neighborhood by providing public space and access to the waterfront. The redevelopment connects the street to the canal while repurposing the existing boathouse into an outdoor dining experience. By providing public amenities on a privately developed site, the project is a destination for people to gather around shared interests, strengthening their sense of community.
It's lifted, the ground floor is porous, it can be, occupied by the public. And we really, talked a lot about that activation and that amenity that it brings to this area, in addition to activating the water's edge.
Yeah, this happens to be a part of the city in Detroit that is underutilized, this river's edge. So when we say porous, it's not just accessible to travel through and circulate through. It actually has a lot of transparency, but it also has program that is heavily community related. They have community gardens, they have a teaching space, they have a food space, a dining space, and all of these are open to the public and accessible through this actual building to bring people to the riverside. So I think it's really wonderful how the architecture actually frames the river.
Congratulations, Umbra Architects! The 2022 Architectural Excellence Awards are supported by Burt Cromer Cremonese, a Pittsburgh law firm representing architects and other design professionals throughout Western Pennsylvania. Their practice holds expertise in a wide range of issues for their clients' business, including entity formation, ownership transitions, various aspects of business and employment law, contract negotiation, and counseling on how to manage legal risks. Mike Cremonese and his partners Sheila Burke and John Cromer are committed to creative and bold solutions tailored to their clients' interests. Burke Cromer Cremonese applauds all of tonight's design competition entrants and congratulates the winners. With you, we hope to design a better Pennsylvania. The Government Award is given to any individual or group working in state or local government that has made significant contributions to the profession and business of architecture and/or the built environment in Pennsylvania. This year, 3 Government Award recipients were put forward to the AIA Pennsylvania Board by the AIA Pennsylvania Government Affairs Committee, chaired by Adam Trott, for final approval. Senator Tim Carney is an architect, professor, and now a second-term senator re-elected to represent parts of Delaware and Chester counties. From leading projects at Venturi Scott Brown to teaching students at Drexel University and starting COTE, Kearney designed with his wife Claudia. He has over 3 decades of experience in the field. As a Pennsylvania state senator, Tim Carney, AIA, views his work in elected office as a natural extension of his work as an architect. In doing so, he epitomizes the qualities of a citizen architect. Carney has built houses, college dorms, scientific lab facilities, offices, and more, which pushed him into public service in his borough's planning commission. As a longtime community leader in southeastern Delco, Carney served as a mayor of Swarthmore for 5 years before joining the Senate. As a legislator, Senator Carney is focused on protecting reproductive rights and expanding or protecting access to affordable and equitable health care. Most recently, he led the Delaware County Legislative Delegation to introduce bills to reform abusive for-profit hospital deals. He also supports greater investments in public schools and championed capital funding for school buildings. Congratulations, Senator Carney. State Representative Malou McKenzie is a lifelong resident of the Lehigh Valley, was elected to the State House in 2020 as representative of the 131st Legislative District, which encompasses parts of Lehigh, Northampton, and Montgomery counties. Prior to her election, she taught school and was the owner-operator of VM McKenzie Interior Design, LLC, her small business of more than 30 years. During her first term, Representative McKenzie focused on the support of small business owners. In doing so, she has been an ally of AIA Pennsylvania in the State House. Malou considers herself blessed to have had a long and varied career working to advance 3 areas that are close to her heart: good education, good interior design, and now good government. Congratulations, Representative McKenzie. The inaugural COTE Government Award is given in recognition of significant contributions to or support of the AIA Pennsylvania Committee on the Environment, or COTE, mission to advocate for a healthy, safe, efficient, resilient, and beautiful built environment for the common good. A leader in championing safe, healthy, and sustainable communities, State Senator Carolyn Committa is dedicated to ensuring a cleaner and brighter future for the next generation of Pennsylvanians and beyond. As a mayor, she promoted smart growth, walkable town centers, and green buildings in Westchester. In the state legislature, she is working to cut our carbon emissions, invest in renewables, uplift environmental justice communities, and support climate resilience. Congratulations, Senator Committa. The Medal of Distinction is the highest award bestowed by AIA Pennsylvania upon a living AIA Pennsylvania member. The recipient shall have made contributions to architecture that transcend local boundaries and have been a benefit to the profession and citizens of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
For my part, I never had any qualms about being different because I was always sort of different in different ways. My father said to me, "What would you want to go to architecture school for? I mean, why would you want a career?" I said, "Because I'm a woman and I want to do it, and I can do anything that men do." I mean, he used to teach me that. He used to say to me all the time, there's no such word as can't. You know, that's what I was raised with. And then when I wanted to go to architecture school, he says, well, why would you want to do that? I should have said to him, because there's no such word as can't. My first impetus to get involved with the AI was because of the women issue in architecture. And I felt that I had gone to girls' schools and women's colleges, so I always knew that women were treated differently, than they were at a co-ed school, and that we could do anything we wanted to. And when I got involved with AIA, I got involved with some women's groups, and women were not at all confident that they could achieve the things that men could in this field. And so I felt that it was my opportunity to really be able to kind of fight those battles and go forward and become active and say to women, let's just do it. But I felt that if I had the opportunity to become president, it would be a great message for women in our profession that we could do anything and keep going and just do it.
Susan's legacy was about change, and her leadership style was dramatically different than her predecessors. 30 years later, people are still talking about Susan's impact on the profession. And I could see the change that she was bringing. It was refreshing, different, and I think it was inspiring for a lot of young people like myself at the time. She related to people. You felt like she really thought about those of us in the profession who may not have felt included before. So she brought a different dynamic. She also brought this sense that sustainability was important.
She is one of the national, if not international, leaders in women in practice and sustainability in practice. Susan's leadership was transformative for me and shifted the emphasis on sustainability among architectural practices. So as a woman who's focused on sustainability in practice, Susan's contribution is so transformative. Her platform was sustainability in practice. And she basically said, for the year that I will be president of this organization, we as an organization will take this as a central feature for what we're going to do at the National Convention, what we're going to talk about in terms of educational futures, and in terms of how practices are changing. That was in the 90s when she was president of the AIA, and it completely shifted the tone of the Committee on the Environment to becoming a leader within the AIA. So I see Susan as the moment when the architectural community really began to focus on sustainability in practice. And through her projects, which have won design awards and COTE Top 10 sustainability awards, she illustrates the importance of designing for place and designing for the people and culture of that particular setting.
And I think it should be a creed almost that any architect has to practice sustainable design, because we are so much in a crisis area in terms of what our planet can survive. We have to always consider what the purpose of the building is, what its use is, what its needs are, and then add to it the part of beauty and sustainability. But I think what you could not do is separate the needs of the client and the needs of the building, of what it's going to be used for the beauty of the architecture. I think that they have to work together, and that's what's really good design. And so I say to women always, just do it, and just think that you are of an equal stature and worth, and go forward with that, without a chip on your shoulder or without any kind of doubt that you can achieve the same things that a man can, because there's no such word as can't.
Congratulations, Susan. A silver medal may be granted at the jury's discretion to the project or projects that distinguishes itself from the rest of the submissions, representing the highest level of achievement. This year, the jury selected 3 projects for the prestigious silver medal. In the category of architecture, ISA is the recipient of a silver medal for Orange Crush. The site plan for this 49-unit, 5-story mixed-use multifamily in Philadelphia was inspired by its odd geometry and adjacent edges. Sandwiched between a sunken railroad right-of-way, a historic brick industrial building, and a neighborhood school, the building's context contributed to its character. Rather than situate the building's lobby in a typical street-facing position, residents are invited down a narrow side alley, generating an entry experience deeply rooted in place.
The jury was really excited about this project because it is a very simple box housing, kind of mid-rise, medium scale. We thought it was pretty brilliant in how it made this urban cut through the block, which would normally be really deep and dark because it's very narrow and tall. And instead, it isn't, because the authors, the architecture practice actually painted this wall yellow, which we thought, paint is cheap. This was super smart. The materiality of the exterior uses 2 different or maybe 3 different gradations or resolutions of corrugated metal, which we thought was a really clever way to break up the otherwise very boxy massing.
I think the other thing is we all universally agreed in the sort of urban design principles of the project were so strong that it wasn't really a function of budget or program. It was really driven by very, very clear urban agenda.
And what I found really refreshing about this project is the economy of means. It literally looks as if it uses 1 window size for the entire project, but it varies the reading of the elevation just by incorporating the different corrugated metal colors, and also that little restraint of not trying to figure out a special detail or condition when different metal colors meet. I thought was actually quite refreshing.
It's skillful. I mean, we'll say this about a lot of projects today. They did a lot with a little. This is definitely one that maybe did the most in many ways with the little budget.
Yeah, the interiors are just as appealing as the exteriors too. I think that the living spaces were really well lit and looked really very attractive for the kind of market price point that they were after.
I think the one sculptural move that we were all so excited about was that carved through mid-block, splash of color, unexpected moment in what is just a purely block, massing. And I think that was just a great surprise. And these spaces can be tight and unattractive, but somehow it's a really, aspirational space that we all were pretty excited about.
The aerial or axon is pretty brilliant, and how the building has to really pinch down to almost nothing to get out of the way of the existing building next to it that's kind of canted, and that's what creates this super tight space. But instead of the architect just offsetting that geometry of the existing building adjacent with this narrow space, it actually undulated the facade to create this really kind of playful experience, which is not just about color.
Congratulations, ISA! In the category of architecture, Kieran Timberlake is the recipient of a silver medal for Student Innovation Center. Iowa State University's Student Innovation Center supports the university's reputation for innovation with a high-quality, centralized space for student work in all fields of study. Certified LEED Gold, the 144,000 square foot building hosts makerspaces, classrooms, co-working spaces, and design studios. Its pleated curtain wall distinguishes the building on campus while managing the effects of solar heat gain. This flexible, dynamic building encourages around-the-clock experimentation at ISU.
I think we felt that the way the curtain wall was developed and this kind of drapery-like treatment or pleated curtain wall was really powerful in a way. One, gave identity to the project, and kind of singled it out amongst its glass counterparts, but also, upon further examination, we uncovered the kind of relationship of opaque and transparent surfaces within that, and it really works beautifully inside.
I think we were so impressed too with, it's not a really tall building. It has a single-story base and then 3 floors of this pleated curtain wall that kind of crisscross yin-yang, which is pretty effective, and gave it a lot of monumentality and interest. And the way the glass captures the light, and in some moments the glass is opaque from the inside, super cleverly used as whiteboards, but also give it that reflection and captures, adjacent views. There's a water tower that's adjacent to this building, and it gets picked up in the reflection. It's just those really clever moments that were really appealing to us.
Yeah, I think it's exceptional in terms of its articulation and tectonic. You guys said it so well. It was this kind of wonderful deception that this glass, which is a kind of a A-B rhythm of solid void, there's solid panel to transparent throughout the whole entire envelope wrap. That also gradates from a flat panel to a corrugated condition of the glass and the solid. So there's a lot going on with little material change, which I think is really powerful and incredibly skillful.
Congratulations, Kieran Timberlake and Substance Architecture. In the category of architecture, ISA is the recipient of a silver medal for The Block. The Block and ISA is supported by Alliance HP, owner and developer of the project. Alliance HP is a vertically integrated commercial real estate investment firm that acquires, develops, repositions, leases, and manages a diverse range of assets, with a primary focus on industrial and office properties in the greater Philadelphia and South Florida markets. The Block bridges an existing gap between walkable urban fabric and suburban big box surface parking with a novel mixed-use housing typology. An unusual approach to circulation takes cues from Philadelphia's row house fabric, minimizing interior corridors and instead relying on an elevated landscape deck as primary access for upper-level walk-ups. Featuring multiple apertures in plan and section, the building opens unexpected views and reconnects deactivated urban edges with fresh pedestrian experiences.
This project is both extremely elegant. The elevation is really nicely articulated, using one single window size, maybe there's 2 in there, but getting a lot of play by the manipulation of the corrugated textures being different in scale. And then there's a sophisticated exterior with a real wow surprise on the interior with a playful courtyard.
Yeah, I think we were all surprised and captivated by I think one of the expressions we used was messy vitality, kind of expressing the urban conditions in their totality, both the kind of cut through at the street level, the upper garden terrace, and the way that's punctuated then from above to bring light into that cut through, the use of color in a kind of unabashed way. Just thought it would really came together to create a really strong urban presence and like a number of urban, like very desirable urban spaces.
I mean, I think it's a really amazing project because it is a simple box bar building, but these few choice formal moves, like the lift up for that urban swath to bring the street to the back of the site or the interior of the site, is a really great scale and accessible moment at the street. And everything that you said about color, color is going a long way in this project. And I think the architects were so smart about where to put the money. The building envelope in any kind of thermal break condition is hard to maneuver formally in a housing project economically. And instead they put those larger kind of dynamic gestural moves on the exterior, which becomes this playful terrace that is also visible from the street because it's only on the second floor. So there's this wonderful outdoor dialogue with the streetscape from the residents that live there because of their proximity in that zone outside to the street. So I think there's just a really wonderful, exuberant spirit about this project.
I will say too, the richness of color is really very concentrated. I love the fact that you look at the interior units and they're all white. You know, you could have easily imagined one wanting to have color in there, but the fact that it's just so concentrated where they use the color, again, I just think it's a very, you know, well-crafted, sophisticated approach to using color.
Congratulations, ISA. Every year, the AIA Pennsylvania Architecture Firm Award recognizes one firm whose passion and practice has produced notable architecture for at least a decade.
Tippett's Weaver, they're all in. Once they commit to something, they're going to practice it at the highest level. It is truly inspiring to see a small firm in a small market practicing architecture at the level that they're doing it at.
One of the things I love about Tippett's Weaver is they're just really down to earth. The process feels very natural, very conversational. When you help a client sort of work through the process and feel comfortable with the end solution, that really, to me, is part of the success of a project.
We were very deliberate from the outset on the size of firm that we wanted. I think we never had an aspiration to be a big firm. We all very much want to be a part of the entire process. There's a very collaborative review of projects. If I'm not heading up the project, I'm still involved in a sort of collaborative way and sort of bouncing ideas off of each other on how to move the project forward.
The partners really are designers and architects. We love the craft, we love our work, we love to do drawings, we love to build models, and we've been able to stay as a small firm actively doing that.
Tippett's Weaver has been the perfect firm for me. I love the intimacy of a small firm where you get to touch every project. If I ever raise my hand and say, hey, I'd really like to work with that client, there's never a question.
That's what makes this firm work, is that we're all here to help support that project. Sometimes we'll take a project that it's more about the project and the organization than it is about the fee. And I think that's part of what sets us apart, is we're willing to take on these jobs and really put our heart and soul into the design.
Our passion from craft came from working with these historic buildings. We were interested in preservation, and we were interested in the dynamic quality of being able to restore and renovate and work with old structures that had a high level of quality, artistry, and detailing. That informed our work.
Much of the work that we're doing involved historic buildings, really trying to take as much as we possibly can out of an existing building, really use as much of the fabric of what's there as a starting point for our projects. Taking away only what's really necessary. The subtractive process is probably every bit as important as the additive process.
They're doing it in a very sophisticated way, creating contemporary, modern solutions. How can we interact with the beautiful historic building stock that we have in a way that isn't cheap or faux?
I think what we realized in working here over time is that we could have a fairly significant impact on the work that was going on in this community. We've also seen this community grow and change materially over the time that we've been here, and I think we feel like we've had some small role in helping that come about, and that's very rewarding. In many cases, budgets have been relatively tight on much of the work that we do, and so what that usually means is we end up kind of focusing most of our energy on taking one or two elements of a building and really maybe making those couple small elements that we can spend a little bit of extra money on really special. And so oftentimes that might be an entry piece, it might be a canopy, it might be the main circulation, it might be a stairway or something like that.
Tippett's Weaver not only helped our vision come to life, they went way beyond what I think any of us imagined could be accomplished in this space. The combination of the design skill, the functionality, and the materials that they used brought this to an entire new level. I mean, I think we all, as members of the building committee, sort of had an idea of what could be accomplished, but I don't think any of us envisioned anything this good. One of the things that I've seen in all of Tippett's Weaver's projects here in York is this great combination of respect for these awesome, authentic, historic downtown environments, but also being able to bring those into just this terrific, usable space for people. And that, to me, is really the highest accomplishment. Things that are great to look at are wonderful, but things that are great to use are even better. That really, to me, is the greatest pleasure.
Congratulations, Tippett's Weaver Architects. Thank you for joining us to celebrate great architecture this evening. A special thanks to all that participated in this year's awards programs. One more round of applause for our partners and sponsors for their support of the profession and the chapter. Fenner and Essler, Oldcastle APG, Milver Macris, Offutt Kerman, Burt Cromer Cremonese, Langen, Concord Engineering, Cumbie Construction, Sheets, EPSA, First Energy, Rockfin, Alliance HP Philadelphia, Beam, Acoustic Distinctions,